All right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we've got some news for Hogwarts Legacy to go over. As you guys know, this is one of the best-selling games of the last few years and easily one of the highest-grossing games of 2023. And it's not even out on every single platform. Obviously, we got the PS4 and Xbox One that just released. Well, unfortunately, we do have some pretty bad news for the Switch port of the game, as it has indeed been delayed. So I'm going to go over what that means for the future of Hogwarts Legacy post-launch content, when we're going to expect any new updates to come out. And speaking of post-launch content, I'm going to talk about some data mined information that revealed a ton of cut content that we may end up seeing return in the form of future content updates or as a part of the inevitable sequel. We got the big PlayStation showcase happening next week, so I'm going to talk about the possibility of an expansion being revealed during that event. Also, guys, I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 for 120,000 subscribers. If you guys would like to enter, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel and then tweet me proof that you're subscribed. And I've also got some bonus entries in the pinned comment, so take advantage of that giveaway. And let's go ahead and get started with the biggest piece of news for the day, and that is the Switch port for Hogwarts Legacy has officially been pushed back to November. The 8th console generation ports of Hogwarts Legacy have been very impressive so far, with the PS4 and the Xbox One versions having solid performance largely thanks to WB Games, giving the developers Avalanche Software the space and time they need to make the product as good as possible. Now, leading up to the launch of the Nintendo Switch version, many people, myself included, were expecting this to be one of the best-selling versions of the game because of how massive the user base the Switch currently has and how many Harry Potter fans, new and old, would love to have a portable version of this game. The Switch was the final version of the game scheduled for release, but we just got the official confirmation that the launch has been pushed back from July 25th all the way back to November 14th. During a recent earnings call, Warner Brothers CEO of global streaming and games stated that while the Xbox One and PS4 versions of Hogwarts Legacy were important, they have even higher hopes and presumably standards for the Switch version of the game. So honestly, it makes sense that they're giving Avalanche a bit more time to make sure that the game is as good as possible, as well as perform similar to the other versions that are currently released. Now, the Switch is undoubtedly a hard system to develop for due to the rather archaic hardware. I mean, we're talking a 10-year-old SoC, and given how many slight bugs and performance issues Hogwarts Legacy experienced on the more powerful platforms, I can only imagine the amount of extra time and effort that the Switch port is actually going to need. But while the Switch delay is ultimately a good thing for Hogwarts Legacy, players likely aren't going to be very happy about the fact that this delay likely means that any DLC or post-launch expansion or content plans are going to be pushed back as well. Despite the insane success of the game, updates have been incredibly slow, which is totally understandable. They've been working on the previous versions of the game and trying to get as many people playing the base game as possible, but we still have no official word on a paid expansion, likely due to the fact that Avalanche Software was not expecting the game to be such a huge hit, and they were trying to make the launch experience as good as possible. I do have a bit of hopium that they have been planning some post-launch content, but until Avalanche Software officially confirms that, we are kind of in a standstill waiting. Now, I do have to commend them. They were able to get a massive patch alongside the Xbox One and PS4 ports, which provided a ton of bug fixes that took roughly 2 months to get out the door. Many community members were hoping that with the Switch release that was set to be in July, Avalanche would move on to start developing DLC or post-launch content, but since the port has been pushed back another 4 months, it seems like we're going to be waiting a very long time for any major update to the versions of the game that have been out for months now. Now, with the big PlayStation showcase announced for next week, I do think that there is a slight possibility that Hogwarts Legacy is going to be a part of that show. If you remember right, it was the PlayStation Stated Play that gave us the first gameplay look at Hogwarts Legacy, so if there's going to be any DLC opportunity for this game, it's going to be with PlayStation, as they have marketing rights that they signed with WB Games. There's an exclusive DLC quest with the Haunted Hogsmeade quest, so I think if there's going to be any type of new DLC coming to the game, it will likely be announced during that showcase by PlayStation on the 24th. Now, it could be that there is never going to be any plans for DLC or any expansion, and my copium levels are off the charts. That said, I do want to reiterate that choosing not to release DLC for this game would be a galaxy-sized missed opportunity. Hogwarts Legacy sold over 15 million copies and reportedly beat its sales projections by over 250%. This is a franchise opportunity for WB Games, and I mean, those sales alone made it clear that they want another game from this franchise. But like I said before, the main development team is likely still working on the Switch port instead of any type of other plans. With Zelda Tears of the Kingdom selling 10 million copies in 3 days, Hogwarts Legacy does have a massive opportunity to sell just as many on that platform. Granted, it's not Zelda and it doesn't have that name recognition on the Nintendo platform, but the possibilities are basically endless. So if they release a really good port of the game, then they're going to be printing money. Now, I do have a bit of a theory though, and you could call me a wishful thinker, and my copium levels are so high that it's through the roof, but I'm starting to wonder if the Switch version's delay actually has something to do with DLC or an expansion entering production. I mean, think about it. Avalanche was previously unable to work on any of those plans simultaneously through no fault of their own, but what if the decision was was recently made to split the team up so that they could work on multiple projects at once. One team could be dedicated solely to the Switch port, another team could be working on DLC for the game, and then another team, mainly the writers and other creative leads, working on the initial draft for the sequel. This could explain why the Switch port was suddenly delayed again, because the smaller team now needs more time to get the job done and fix any issues, but it could be none of that and they're just focusing on trying to get the Switch port as good as possible, and they are all hands on deck trying to get that game to run on a Nintendo Switch, a device that is less powerful than the thing in your pocket. Now, as for what future Hogwarts Legacy DLC could contain, there's been some discoveries via data mined information and unused assets in the game files that we could possibly see featured in a future game, expansions, or a DLC. For starters, there was 2 unfinished companions that were going to be part of the game's Cut companion system. So not only was there going to be a full companion system in Hogwarts Legacy, but there were going to be 2 of them, suggesting this feature was much further into development than we originally thought. It's pretty common knowledge at this point that this game was going to have a companion system, and there is a ton of evidence supporting that, but the fact that there was going to be 2 of them is pretty insane, because that would have made the game more like the Harry Potter books and movies, with the main story following a trio of young wizards and witches. According to the game files, your 2 companions would have been Everett and Imelda for Ravenclaw and Slytherin playthroughs, while the other 2 companions for Gryffindor and Hufflepuff playthroughs are unknown, suggesting that the double companion system was cut before that decision was made. Honestly, I wish this would have made it into the final game, because as much as I love being the main character of the story, this entire universe was built on the relationships between characters, so having a leading trio of your own, just like the main 7 books, would have been an awesome sight to see. Perhaps the coolest feature discovered in the data mine was what seems to be some kind of reputation and morality system that would have had a hefty impact on your playthrough. Throughout the books and movies, students do things that earn or lose them house points, and many people were a little puzzled as to why something like this wasn't in Hogwarts Legacy, since it's such a pivotal part of the universe. But apparently something like this was going to be in the game, and it was going to be very detailed. According to the recent data mines, Hogwarts Legacy was going to have a system in which certain actions would cause your house to lose points and have an impact on your moral course of your playthrough. For instance, you're caught sneaking in the restricted section and you lose points, or you're caught using an unforgivable curse. Now, this system seems to have been cut early in development because the point penalties for using unforgivable curses don't seem all that harsh, and it would be a little bit strange for you to simply be given a 50-point penalty for casting Imperio or 100 points for using Avada Kedavra. Given the fact that within the Harry Potter universe, these spells would have ended you up in Azkaban, it totally makes sense that they didn't add it to the game. As much as I would love for there to be some kind of deeper house point system in the game, they likely didn't want to punish you too hard for using unforgivable curses during gameplay. But then again, I would have loved to see some kind of push-pull morality system similar to the one that's featured in Red Dead Redemption. Now, another cut feature discovered in the data mine seems to be some kind of crime system similar to GTA, in which breaking rules of Hogwarts and its surrounding areas would cause investigators to spawn in and try to track you down for punishment, with more investigators spawning in depending on the severity of the crime. There were also a ton of different NPC reactions for crimes being committed, suggesting the game world would actually start treating you differently if you were to go down a criminal path, and all of this would tie into the reputation system as well as the morality system. So it wouldn't be just house points on the line for your actions, but the reputation of your character overall, once again pushing you more towards the dark side if you choose to break the law and be a public menace. It seems that Hogwarts Legacy was originally going to be more of a traditional RPG with a ton of variations and playthroughs, but for one reason or another it was simplified. Ultimately, I think this decision came from Warner Brothers trying to appeal to most players, and judging by the sales numbers, that was obviously the right choice. But I would still love to see a more detailed reputation system come back to the game, possibly in a content update or even a future sequel. Maybe there could be 2 different game modes in Hogwarts Legacy, one being the version at launch, and then another being more of like the hardcore game mode or immersive mode that allows you to start a new playthrough with all of these systems intact. But I am perfectly fine how they did Hogwarts Legacy for this game. Maybe they're going to take these ideas and build upon them for the second game. Now, another cut system discovered in the game files was a gift giving system that seemed to tie into some kind of possible romance options. Now, as it stands right now, there are no romance options in Hogwarts Legacy, but it doesn't seem like this was always going to be the case, as there seems to be evidence suggesting you would be able to give gifts to NPCs and build relationships with them, possibly to a romantic degree, but I totally understand why they cut that from the game. It would be kind of awkward. I can understand Harry Potter had it, but these are like high school kids that we're talking about, so it doesn't really add anything to the story, so it's totally understandable that they cut that from the game. Now, this is just some of the cut content that were found in the game files. You could argue that this content is going to come back to Hogwarts Legacy in a future content patch, and I would certainly love that to be the case for some of these items. It's also very possible that these items are being held back for the sequel, which would actually make a lot of sense. We know WB Games is going to want another Harry Potter RPG from Avalanche Software, and we know that a lot of games improvements over the original are going to be coming from the core mechanics, as opposed goes to the map itself, because there's only so much that you can do to make Hogwarts Legacy feel like a brand new location after it was already painstakingly recreated in the first game. So if you ask me, I think that there's a very good chance that the next Harry Potter RPG is going to feature all of these cut mechanics and have just a deeper overall gameplay experience. So essentially Hogwarts Legacy would be the game that got everyone hooked, and then Legacy 2, or whatever the sequel is called, will be the evolution that truly is the immersive RPG we were hoping for, building off of the first game's foundation, kind of like how Fallout New Vegas built upon the foundation of Fallout 3, or more recently how Tears of the Kingdom built upon Breath of the Wild. The future is bright for Hogwarts Legacy as well as the entire franchise, but the pacing in which we get these new awesome things may be a tad bit on the slow side due to how much Avalanche and WB Games are currently focused on getting the current versions of the game out. But maybe we get some news during the PlayStation showcase. I really hope that's the case, but I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section. What is your ideal expansion or DLC content for Hogwarts Legacy? Do you want to see new stuff added to the Vivarium, or are you looking forward to new story content? Be sure to like the video, guys. Don't forget to enter the 120,000 subscriber giveaway. We're giving away a PS5 and a game copy of your choice. Be sure to check the pinned comment. I've got more entries as well. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.